problem of the turmoil and policy chaos of President Donald Trump's administration has overshadowed another seismic change in U.S. governance: the emergence of political heretics in the U.S. Congress. Congress has traditionally marched lockstep with the presidency on matters of foreign policy. That's especially the case on matters of national security. There is the unwritten rule that if the presidency declares this or that leader or country a threat, it is unpatriotic, even subversive, to question it. The argument is that it is the presidency that conducts foreign relations and runs intelligence agencies. Therefore, it knows best what is best for the country. Moreover, it is argued, congressional activism in foreign affairs will result in foreign policy chaos. These are valid arguments, of course, though things can hardly get more chaotic than they are now. In any case, giving the presidency a free hand increases the likelihood of jaundiced policies. Advent of two Muslim women. Now comes a rupture of sorts in congressional acquiescence. It is by no means a change, of course, but it is notable nonetheless. When the history of the 2016 U.S. election is written, the improbable election of Trump as president will, of course, be front and center. But the history will not be complete without due attention to the backlash that followed during the midterm election in 2018. A notable aspect of the backlash is the election to Congress of two Muslim women, Ilhan Omar of Minnesota and Rashida Tlaib of Michigan. They are the political antithesis of Trump and company. Though diminutive, the Somali-born Omar is an echo of another famous Somali, the supermodel Iman. But while Iman made her mark by strutting on the ephemeral stage of fashion, Omar trudges the hallways of power, wearing a hijab and unsettling a conformist order. At about 10 years old in 1992, she came to the U.S. with her family as refugees from the Somali Civil War. That experience may well explain her courage and outspokenness. It is definitely a factor in the ire that trails her. She recalls being bullied in school while her family lived in Virginia because she stood out in her Muslim hijab. She was taunted, smacked, and shoved down staircases. Her father, her only surviving parent, could only encourage her to tough it out. They are doing something to you because they feel threatened in some way by your existence, she has recalled being told by the father. Rashida Tlaib, in contrast, was born in the U.S., though to Palestinian parents. She had a relatively normal life until Al-Qaeda attacked the U.S. on September 11, 2001 with 3 hijacked passenger jets. I was probably in my second year in law school when 9/11 happened. And I was really terrified of what was going to happen to my husband, who's only a green card holder at the time. Tlaib has been quoted as saying, "I immediately called my brothers and told them to be very careful who you hang out with, telling my sisters, you know, just be real careful out there, and being really afraid of my fellow Americans." That fear is gone now, relatively speaking. Rather than succumb to it, Tlaib was inspired to become politically active, and that culminated in her election to Congress in 2018. She and Omar quickly became the most irrepressible voices in Congress, so much so that they have unnerved and even incensed some fellow Democrats, including the party's leaders. Not surprisingly, they have been outspoken, especially on the fate of Palestinians. Omar drew the most intense ire when she blamed a push to censure her on the Benjamins. It is a rap music-inspired slang for the $100 bill, which bears an image of Benjamin Franklin. The comment was interpreted to mean that Omar was suggesting that members of Congress were dancing to the tune of wealthy Jews. It is an interpretation that evokes the sensitive matter of a Nazi rationale for the Holocaust. Besides, no member of Congress likes to be characterized as being in anyone's pocket. So, Omar apologized for that implication. Still, she has vowed to remain outspoken. Some detractors have tried to paint her as a terrorist sympathizer. Trump even posted a doctored video that suggests that she was unfazed by the September 11th attack. But what Omar is unfazed by is the attempts to muzzle her. Clearly, "I am a nightmare, because he can't stop really thinking about ways that he can continue to use my identity to marginalize our communities, Omar has said of Trump. Trump too has been irrepressibly vocal. A recent New York Times headline, Gaza militants fire 250 rockets, and Israel responds with airstrikes, particularly infuriated her because of the implication of who is the aggressor and who only acts in self-defense. When will the world stop dehumanizing our Palestinian people who just want to be free? Trump tweeted. Headlines like this and framing it in this way just feeds into the continued lack of responsibility on Israel, who unjustly oppress and target Palestinian children and families. Diverse concerns. Omar and Trump have not limited their comments on matters of the Middle East and Jewish influence. They have spoken out also on issues such as the crises in Venezuela and the US-Mexican border. Omar recently infuriated the Trump administration by saying that the US government contributed to the political chaos in Venezuela. A lot of the policies that we have put in place has kind of helped lead the devastation in Venezuela, and we have sort of set the stage for where we are arriving today, she has said in an interview. On her part, Trump has been one of the fiercest congressional critics of the Trump administration's handling of the immigrant situation at the border. In fact, she is a leading advocate for the impeachment of President Trump. These have all put the lives of the two young women in peril. Omar in particular has received several death threats. 2 men are already in jail for threatening to kill her, and others are under investigation. That's those who bothered to let their intent known. Even Omar's supporters are worried about her safety. At a meeting with constituents in Minnesota recently, for example, the hosts wondered whether to move to a more secluded room. "I don't want her to go anywhere without security," one of the coordinators is quoted as saying. Even at the U.S. Congress, the price of being a political heretic can be steep.